Alright. Streaming. Let me check if this is live. Okay. So, I know I'm streaming, but I just want to check if it's live or not. So, welcome to the channel. I just decided to do a live stream tonight and pretty much talk. If you hear any noise in the background, it's pretty much the fan going across and it kind of just blowing. Just checking if live stream is working. I'm about to go into the articles and in a second. Okay, it kind of just blowing. Alright, it's working. Alright, so let's hop right into the articles. Alright. Pattern change next week to end severe weather outbreak. Parade as west warms up and east stays cool. So the jet stream configuration across the U.S. will undergo a change by next week. This pattern change will cause the west to heat up, and while the east stays cool, it will also put an end to the recent parade of severe weather outbreaks in the south. A change in the weather pattern will take shape across the United States by next week, heating up the west, keeping the east cool, and putting an end to the recent parade of severe weather outbreaks in the south. The jet stream will reconfigure itself into a large northward bulge and ridge of high pressure over the western United States, with a broad southward dip and a throw of low pressure over the eastern United States. For most of April, that ridge of high pressure has situated over the Gulf of Alaska, but it will move into the western lower by the next week. Temperatures tend to warm up, and when the jet stream bulges northward, so some parts of the west could have the warmest air so far this year. Meanwhile, a southward dip of the jet stream typically causes a drop in temperatures, so it will be rather cool in the east next week. And you see here warmer temperatures in the south and then the cooler in the jet stream. Says the pattern change is great news for the south, which has been struck by multiple severe weather outbreaks since Easter and has another round of stormy weather coming this week. By Sunday, cooler, dry air should push into the south, shutting off the heat to severe weather for a couple of days. Even with the threat of thunderstorms returning next Tuesday, the setup isn't favorable for tornadoes or an outbreak of severe thunderstorms to the extent we've seen recently. Temperatures in parts of the Great Lakes and east will be up to 15 degrees below average early next week, as the west warms up 10 to 15 degrees above average. Alright, warm is expected to start building in the west as early as late this week. The National Weather Service office in Los Angeles is expecting a taste of summer with a heat wave beginning Thursday and lasting through the weekend. Downtown Los Angeles is predicted to reach 90 degrees for the first time since November 18th, which has the best chances on Friday and Saturday. This is later when the average data the first 90-degree day in LA of April 15th. Additionally, Phoenix might record its first 90-degree day of the year on Wednesday, more than 3 weeks later than the average of March 31st. By Friday of this week, the first 100-degree day of the year is likely. So the first 100-degree day has occurred within 7 days of the first 90-degree day in Phoenix, only 4 other times on record, according to the National Weather Service. So this is the temperature outlook for April 27th through May 1st. So cooler temperatures on the east and warmer on the west. Alright, let's take a look at the next story. Here's what will change with the hurricane forecast this year. The National Hurricane Center will add a forecast point at 60 hours. A graphical storm surge product will be issued this year. The cone of uncertainty will remain mostly unchanged this year. With less than 6 weeks left until the official start of Atlantic Basin hurricane season, the National Hurricane Center has released its first list of product changes for the 6 month period when the hurricanes and tropical storms are more likely to develop. The first tweak that the National Hurricane Center made were for the forecast cone of uncertainty. The cone of uncertainty refers to the projected path map you frequently see on the internet or television for a given storm. This is an example of a cone of uncertainty right here. It just pretty much tells you the probable areas where a storm will travel. It says this year's changes were largely focused on helping clarify the forecast, adding a forecast point at 60 hours and turning the storm surge forecast into a graphical format for ease of understanding. This year, the National Hurricane Center will add more of these circles to its cone of uncertainty to help increase the accuracy of the forecast at 2.5 days out. This addition will allow forecasters to add wind speed and wind radii forecasts at 60 hours and will also be included in time of arrival and storm surge forecast. This increases the accuracy of forecast specifically for storms that are expected to churn at this time. Before 2020, the data at about 60 hours was an as the crow flies forecast that just connected the dots between 2 and 3 days. A turning storm could have an actual data point to the left or the right of as the crow flies forecast, depending on which direction the storm was turning. Another addition to the suite of products for the National Hurricane Center is a graphical depiction of its storm surge forecast. Before 2019, the forecast of storm surge was given solely for a text format, and users had to figure out where they were located in a text forecast that other users rather obscure lower endpoints. This graphical depiction of the National Hurricane Center's storm surge forecast has been a common product offered by the weather.com for several years. And you see here an example of 3 feet, 4 to 7 feet of storm surge in the maps. Alright. Says these changes are a reminder that hurricane season is around the corner and it is time to prepare. That is something that I totally agree with. This channel always talks about, especially right before hurricane season, start getting prepared now. Now you have the COVID-19 where you have to get prepared for getting food and stocked with supplies. The same comes with the hurricane season. You gotta get stocked with candles and flashlights and food for preparedness. Get your pets and your families ready for the possibility of hurricanes coming this season that's coming up, since it's a above average hurricane season coming up this year. Says we know this year's preparations may be hindered by the coronavirus pandemic, but you can also use the pandemic to bolster your supply kits for the months to come. Having a good supply of non-perishable food items, a mask for dust and germs can be an extra opener. Extra pet food, extra books, and game for kids are all things that could be doubled for both hurricane kit and living in a pandemic. Of course, don't rush out to get these supplies, but pick them up, or even better, order them online when you need other things to avoid going out more than necessary. Here are a few other things you can pick up in preparation for hurricane season. The hurricane kit could be useful in the months ahead. Most companies have issued seasonal hurricane forecasts, including the Weather Company and IBM Business, have predicted above far average hurricane and tropical storm activity in the season ahead. Here is the latest forecast from earlier this month. So this is total named storms from 1981 to 2010, average 13. Last year there were 18. Colorado State University had 16, and the Weather Company has 18. So this year's total named storms possibility of 18, hurricanes possibility of 9, and category 3 or higher possibility of 4 of them happening this year. Alright, so it says, and keep in mind that just because hurricane season officially begins on June 1st, it doesn't mean that physics and dynamics of the atmosphere will come together right at that date. Named storms have formed before June 1st, as it did last year. There was a named storm before June 1st, I believe. Have to check that. Let's quickly check. Name storm 2019 before June 1st. Let's see. I guess they're not showing. But I believe last year there might have been one before June 1st. But anyways, you never know when things could happen when it comes to storms, especially on an above average hurricane season. Pretty much, the Gulf right now is really, really warm, which means that it could spin up a storm at any time sooner than June 1st, so it's always great to be prepared. You got to remember that warm water is rocket fuel pretty much for hurricanes and storms. Pretty much hurricanes use the warm water and they cool that area. It's kind of like Mother Nature or the Earth healing herself in a sense when hurricanes come through, because they cool the area and they bring the temperature back to this warming planet. Alright, it says here are the names that will be given to the tropical storms and hurricanes that formed this season. Tropical cyclone names for 2020. Atlantic Basin, we start with Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal, Dolly, Eduard, Faye, Gonzalo, Hannah, Isaias, Josephine, Kyle, Laura, Marco, Nana, Omar, Paulette, Renee, Sally, Teddy, Vicky, and Wilfred. Alright, so those are the hurricane names for 2020. Hopefully there aren't a lot of hurricanes that do damage, like the hurricane that for Puerto Rico, or the hurricane that decided to come towards North Carolina a couple years ago. Okay, let's go to the next story. Interstellar comet. Visiting from deep space is stranger than we thought. Comet Borisov is visiting our solar system from parts unknown, and it's unlike the comets we've seen in our own cosmic neighborhood. As far as tourist destinations go, our solar system appears to be fairly low on the universe's list of best places to visit. Astronomers have only ever detected 2 interstellar visitors passing through our neighborhood. Even though our visitor count remains low, these 2 wanderers have given a glimpse of our truly unusual vagabonds traversing the cosmos. The first was Oumuamua, who was so weird scientists suggested it may even be an alien probe. The second visitor, Roe Comet 2 Borisov, seemed pretty ordinary by comparison, but new analysis shows our second interstellar visitor to be pretty odd too. 2 studies, published at the Journal of Nature Astronomy on Monday, examined Borisov using the Space Hubble telescope and ground-based Atacama Large Millimeter in northern Chile. Astronomers were particularly fortunate with Borisov observations because, unlike Oumuamua, it was spotted in the customs line on the way into our solar system, giving them a chance to observe it. It says Hubble and ALMA were pointed at Borisov in December and January as it moved through the corner of space just outside the orbit of Mars, and as it got closer to the Sun, Borisov warmed up, causing it to expel some gases trapped inside. This gave researchers with Hubble and ALMA a chance to study different wavelengths of light emitted by the interstellar visitor and determine what gases it contains. This is the first time we've ever looked inside a comet from outside our solar system, said Martin Cordiner, astrochemist at NASA Goddard Flight Center, and the first author of the paper. In its release, it is dramatically different from most other comets we've seen before. Both studies show Borisov extremely rich in carbon monoxide. It's not strange to find carbon monoxide in a comet, but the levels seen by Hubble and ALMA are off the charts, measuring higher than comets from our solar system. Because carbon monoxide only freezes at extreme cold temperatures, the research team suggests it is likely formed at the dark outer space outer edges of the distant star system before being flung toward us. So pretty much, comet seems to be from a different star system. That's some weird stuff coming out from outer space heading in here. Alright. Let's go to the next article. 484 billion relief package moves forward. U.S. oil companies may get aid. So I think small businesses should get aid before U.S. oil companies get aid, because oil companies, everybody knows, they're oil tycoons. They destroy the earth in a sense. They dig for oil. They leave waste on beaches, and I just totally don't feel too connected to oil companies. I believe small companies should get aid before oil companies do. It says here, a $484 billion deal to replenish a small business loan passed this Tuesday and is approved by the House. The bill will also increase funding for hospitals and coronavirus testing, but some Democrats worry that it doesn't go far enough. Already, one major bank has told its customers that the $310 billion set aside for companies with fewer than 500 workers to meet the up in demand. And then crashing oil prices took a toll on